Hello everyone and welcome to a replica airguns video. I guess you could call this part 2 of my 3-part Cybergun review. And I've already reviewed the Sig Sauer SP2022, the Cybergun product. Now what we're looking at here today is the Cybergun GSR. It's another Sig Sauer Sigarms replica product from Cybergun. And hopefully shortly I'll be doing the Jericho 941. Okay, so let's get to the Cybergun GSR. Now this was purchased from the Replica Airgun store. This is a non-blowback, mostly metal designed gun. It uses 12-gram CO2 cartridges. It shoots 4.5mm steel BBs. It has a 21-round full-size dropout metal magazine. Now this gun weighs in at a nice 2.4 pounds. It's double action only, and it has a claimed feet per second of 397. Now the GSR is a fairly accurate copy of the real steel Sig Sauer GSR. Now, as with the other two Cybergun products, this is made by KWC and distributed by Cybergun. And again, this one's made in Taiwan. The GSR comes in this nice cardboard box here. And you can see on the box it has a claimed feet per second of 397 FPS. Has an effective range of up to 80 yards. Holds 21 BBs in the magazine. You can see here that it's 2.4 pounds, fairly heavy. Now it does say 7.32 inches, but this I believe is a mistake because this gun from the tip to basically the thumb guard here is about 8.5 inches. Now again, it has this Baxis system. Now I've had several people make comments to the effect that this gun doesn't have Baxis. Some people say that the 4.5mm versions do. I really don't know. Short of taking the gun apart and looking for the Baxis setup, I'm not really sure. It is on the box, but I've also heard that the 4.5mm versions of these guns do not have it. What the Baxis is a hop-up type system that gives the BB spin so that the BB will have less of an arc, or in other words, will fly straighter through the air. Then there's some other information on here. Heavyweight, metal slide, tactical rail, and again, the Baxis accuracy system. Let's take a look inside. You have your manual, of course. Basic information on how to operate the gun, how to maintain it. Box of BBs, zinc coated BBs, about 100 BBs in there. Then you have your tools. This tool is designed to help you load BBs into it. It's not necessary. The spring's fairly light on these guns, and the opening for the BBs on the magazine is pretty open already, so it's fairly easy to load up without the assistance of this tool. You also get an Allen key for adjusting the CO2 for tightening and loosening it. Okay, so let's take a quick walk around of this gun and look at the different parts and components. On the left side here, we have a metal slide, metal frame, even metal grips. So some of the other metal parts are the safety, metal magazine, of course the metal frame. Now the plastic parts would be the hammer, the trigger, and the magazine release. The Cybergun GSR also has the GSR Sigarms branding on here. Stainless on the slide as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the right side of this gun. You'll notice the ejection port is cut out. Now the inner barrel is plastic, so inside here is plastic. Now it's nice that there's an extractor. Even though it's molded into the slide, it does look realistic, giving this gun some more realism. You also have your airgun instructions on the side in white. It would be nice if that was toned down a little bit. And then you also have the serial number here. You have the KWC branding and made in Taiwan as well. Alright, we're going to take a look at the top here. You can see we have the white dot sights on the front and on the back, which is nice. Again, here is your ejector port, and it's open again. Now these sights are non-adjustable. They're molded into the slide. Again, we have our hammer. Now this is really just for show. There's a slight springiness to it, but it doesn't stay back for single action operation at all. When you pull the trigger, it does go back, which is nice. It's just for looks though. Now on the bottom of this gun, of course, we have our magazine, and you can see there's where you put your CO2 in, but we'll take a quick look at the magazine. It's quite nice. Now you do have an opening for the CO2 because it's a little wider than the single stack style magazine. Some of the magazines from Cybergun are the wider double stack style. Now the BBs aren't necessarily double stack, but the magazine replicates a double stack magazine. In this case, it replicates a single stack magazine commonly found in a lot of these 1911 style pistols. Typically here, you pull the spring back, of course, as we always do, and you load it up, put your BBs in the top, use the CO2 screw here or the Allen key to put the CO2 in and take it out. Fairly straightforward. Now we also have a nice accessory rail on this gun, and again, this is metal, so you won't have any problems mounting anything on this gun. Quite nice. So let's take a look at the front of the Sig Sauer GSR, and I don't have my flashlight. My son keeps taking my flashlight, sorry, but you can see inside here pretty good, and you can see that we have a recessed barrel. Now this is about almost, I would say about a 40 cal, getting close to a 45 cal opening, and inside you have your recessed barrel with your inner real barrel here, and it looks to be a copper barrel. Now this will be a smooth bore barrel like most of these BB shooters. And as always, I like to do a bit of a comparison to some other products I have in my collection. So we're looking here at an ASG product. This is an STI Duty 1. This is a blowback 1911 style pistol, BB pistol, 4.5mm. And again, we have another Cybergun product here. This is the Tanfoglio Witness 1911, very popular blowback, very realistic and accurate A1 style 1911 pistol. Now I briefly want to touch upon the triggers on these guns because they're all 1911 styled pistols. And you'll notice that they're all a little bit different. On the Cybergun Tanfoglio, we have a very short sliding styled trigger, and this is very true to what this gun would have for an actual trigger. A short sliding style, so it pulls straight back. We have a little bit longer sliding trigger on the GSR, and that's very common in a lot of real steel 1911 pistols. Now on the STI Duty 1, we have a lever style, so it just levers back. And that's not very accurate at all to the style of this gun. You will rarely ever find that style of a trigger in a 1911 styled pistol. So these guns are definitely more accurate as far as the triggers go. Now other than the trigger, these guns look very similar. The STI and the GSR look very, very close. Even the sights, the way that they're set up, a lot of the gun design is very similar. Now the Tanfoglio is really the classic looking A1 style 1911 pistol, and that's kind of where the 1911 started off. It looked very much like this in the beginning. Alright, it's time to head outside, do the chronograph shooting portion of this test, and of course the accuracy portion of this test. And as always, we're going to shoot some rounds through the chronograph to get an average feet per second rating and see how we do compared to the manufacturer's claim specifications. I'm also going to shoot an 8-round grouping from this gun at 20 feet out in a freestanding position to see what kind of accuracy we can get from the GSR Sigarms. Alright, so let's head outside and see how this gun does. Alright, so we're here with my Cybergun GSR and we're about to do the chronograph test. I'm going to put 8 rounds through this chronograph. This is a brand new CO2 cartridge. I fired one shot off just to make sure that everything's working right with this gun. And now we're going to proceed with this test. So here we go, 8 shots. 471.8, 473, 450, 432, 406, going down quite quickly now, 384, 378, 376, 373. Now this gun does have a claim feet per second of about 400 feet per second, so we had quite a variation, almost 100 feet per second variation from the fastest to the slowest feet per second. Alright, so let's move on to the shooting portion of this test and see how we do. Okay, so I've got my Cybergun Sig Sauer GSR, the Sigarms version, in 4.5mm, and we're going to shoot 8 rounds at this target in a freestanding position, and we're 20 feet away. So here we go. Alright, let's go see how we did. Well, I seem to shoot pretty high, fairly centered. I tend to shoot a little to the left, but this is fairly centered. Now this is probably about a 2.5, maybe 2 3/4 inch grouping. Not the best accuracy out of all the BB guns I've been shooting, and definitely good for shooting things like cans and whatnot from 20 or 30 feet away. Okay, so let's head inside now and finish up this review of the GSR Sigarms. Alright, so the Cybergun Sigarms GSR performed fairly well for us in the chronograph and shooting portion of the test. Now it did start off pretty high and went down fairly quickly. Now the GSR did start off really high, up into the 470 feet per second rating, and then it quickly dropped down to a more comfortable 370 feet per second, which is really closer to the claim manufacturer's specification. So I'm not exactly sure why it shot so hard at the beginning, but it still performed very close to its claimed feet per second rating. And I also felt that while I was shooting this gun and doing the rest of the testing with it, that it stayed up in the high 300 feet per second range. Now when I did the accuracy portion of the test, the GSR wasn't the best shooter out of all my BB guns. It did perform fairly well. I found the trigger to be a little bit heavy, and so I think with my first 8 shots, I could have done better if I had gotten used to the trigger before doing that portion of the test. You can see here, when I shot an additional 3 rounds into this target, that the grouping stayed really right in this pocket, and this is about a 2-inch pocket. Now usually when I shoot off the rest of these rounds, I wouldn't say that I shoot at rapid fire, but I definitely pick up the pace and shoot it a little bit faster than when I shoot my first 8 shots. So you can see the gun actually performed pretty good for me. Now one thing I'd really like to mention about the Cybergun GSR Sigarms is that it was able to shoot a lot of shots per CO2. Now I shot 6 magazines through this gun with 21 rounds in each magazine, so that's about 125 shots. And the GSR was still shooting fairly hard. Now at that point I felt that I had shot enough rounds through the gun to get an idea of how many shots it would do, so I let out the CO2, and there was actually still a lot of CO2 left in the cartridge. So I could have easily got an additional magazine, maybe even 2 more out of the GSR. Okay, so it's time for the pros and the cons. And so what did I like about this Cybergun GSR? Well, it has really good weight, and so therefore it's an extremely solid feeling gun, weighing in at almost 2.5 pounds. Now because it has that much weight to it, it's mostly metal in design. It also has the all metal, full size dropout metal magazine in the single stack configuration. Now it's a pretty good, accurate Sig Sauer GSR Sigarms replica with the appropriate Sigarms licensing. The GSR also had very good feet per second ratings, very close to the manufacturer's specified claims. I was able to get a lot of shots out of one CO2 magazine, and I'll go out on a bit of a limb and say this gun should get about 150 shots per CO2. The sights on the GSR are quite nice. I like the white dots in the front and the back. I also like the fact that it has a true style 1911 trigger. Now, it isn't a single action trigger, but the look of the trigger is true to the 1911 style. The GSR is also a very affordable gun with a lot of great features, like the all-metal design and full-size dropout metal magazine. Now here's some of the things that I didn't like about the GSR Sigarms. Now it isn't a blowback gun, and that's alright, but again, with this product the slide doesn't move at all, and it's always nice when the slide functions to some degree. Now the hammer does move back and forth, but it's really just for show. It would have been a nice touch to manually be able to cock the hammer and get a true single action shot out of the GSR, and that may have helped in the accuracy portion of the test. Now, as with a lot of the lower priced BB pistols, the sights are non-adjustable, and I also found that the Sigarms GSR had a bit of a heavy trigger. I'd say it was definitely more of a medium to hard pull on it. Now it wasn't too bad, but it was definitely heavier than some of the guns that I've shot that have double action. Okay, so that wraps up my review of the Cybergun Sigarms GSR. Thanks again so much for watching another Replica Airguns video. Make sure to check back for my Jericho 941 review that I should be doing sometime maybe later this week or next week. And as always, make sure to drop by the Replica Airguns website where I have a lot of other articles and reviews and sometimes more information about the products that I do video reviews on. While you're there, check into our online Replica Airguns store where we have a lot of great airgun products, blank gun products, and accessories. And if you're not a subscriber already, make sure to subscribe before you leave. And that's pretty much it. So have a great day, take care, and see you next time.